Okay, so for initial delivery, these are the things that we usually have out, right? So quick strips is something that we use for IPR. I'm about to get into IPR stuff in a bit. Munchies, we use this to help seat the aligners and stimulate osteoblastic activity. We'll talk about that as well. And then I like to have these burrs to help remove flash. So diamond football burr, and then the carbide fluted polishing burr. The blocker blacklight technique is very helpful. So anytime you are placing composite on or using it for attachments, it's hard to see, right? It's usually translucent, very close to being the color of the tooth. So it can be hard to see that excess. So if you just get a blacklight off of Amazon, pocket ones, they're super small, they're like $9, and you shine it on composite, the composite will actually light up. I have a video that I'm gonna show you guys. And so that helps make sure that you get rid of all that flash so that way the aligners can seat well. And then instructions. So we like to give the patients all the trays. Reason being is because once you start getting cases going, a lot of you probably are not going to have storage to be storing all of their boxes and cases, and it becomes a nightmare to manage. Your patients are adults. They've paid $5,000, give or take, for this. They're responsible. They can manage their trays. That's just my philosophy. If they lose a tray, obviously they can let you know, but by you kind of like keeping some, giving some, keeping some, it just adds a lot of logistical stress. And there's really no reason to do that. You just have to make sure you're scheduling them out for their appointments so that way they can come in on time. But we give the trays to the patients, and then 1 week wear times. You can do 1 week wear times, and the reason being is the movement or the rate of movement, as long as it is down to 0.25 millimeters of tooth movement. This is standard with some brands, but you can always check this in your clinical preferences. And all you have to look for is like, what is the amount of movement per aligner? And some of them will be at 0.2, and then they'll let you go up to like 0.3, 0.4. So obviously if you're moving more per tray, that's a fast movement. And the downside is if you move teeth too fast, you can cause damage. So you want to have, the sweet spot is 0.25 millimeters per tray. And if you do that, you will be able to do a 7-day wear time for your patients. I believe, I don't think does SureSmile have an app? They haven't got there yet? Yeah, so Invisalign I think is the only one. Candid, they have one, yeah? So if the brand that you're using has an app, get it. Some people don't even know the app exists, but always get it because that is how these brands are starting to kind of move in the direction just to help with accessibility and whatnot. And then we like to print out the aligner schedule for the patient. So you can always view that, and that's what they get at the first appointment, okay? So when it comes to attachment placement, some people want to outsource it. They never want to do it. Other people never want to let anyone else do it. I think there's like a happy medium where first you should be doing it. You should be a part of the process. You need to be in charge of the quality, because if the quality at the attachment appointment placement is not good, the attachments are just going to fall off, and it's not going to, it's not going to work. So once you get it rolling and you know what you're doing and you have your team member with you, your assistant, eventually your assistant can handle the attachment placement while you oversee, okay? So normally the assistant will basically seat the patient, they will place the attachments, they will go through all the instructions and everything, and then you come in at the end to basically just check, right? You'll have the black light. You can see, you can remove any extra flash and clean everything up and ensure that everything is good to go. And isolation is going to be super key. So these are Isolite and Optrogate. I know there's other brands, but basically the goal is you want to use something that is going to help keep the saliva out of the way, okay? So cheeks, tongue, and just like rogue saliva. And the importance of this is, the importance of isolation is if you have any contamination, so any saliva that gets onto the bonding surface of the attachment, it's going to fall off. It's just going to fall off. There is no mechanical retention with this, right? It is all just bonding on. What's up?
Have you used the Isolite for putting it on? Do you have to like tap the tray or something?
Yeah. Did you like read my slides or something?
Yeah, I was going to do that slide for you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yes, we do. I'll show the technique too. But yeah, we work in quadrants. So yeah, just remember, like, You can get away with some, some margin of error whenever you're doing fillings and stuff regarding bonds, right? With this, there's little to none, and the biggest is contamination. If there's any ounce of contamination, that attachment will pop off. And it's not the end of the world if the attachment pops off, but it's just annoying because the patient has to come back in. So you want to make sure that you're focusing on that in the beginning. And so for the initial delivery, this is some of the materials that we'll use. So we make sure we have our etch, our bond. OptiBond is one of the brands that we use. I really like this Tetric EvoFlow composite. It doesn't matter, again, what brand of composite you're using. It's all about the feel of the composite. So you don't want something that's too liquidy, and you don't want something that's too compact. You want something that's right in the middle. And if it's a translucent kind of like bulk fill composite, that's always really good. I think Ivoclar just came out with an aligner attachment specific composite. I talked to the reps when I was just at a convention, and I was like, wow, that's genius. And then I figured out what it was, and it's basically literally what I just said. Like, it's a composite that is a mix of being like flowable and packable, and it's right in the middle. So, that being said, like I said earlier, companies are innovating around this procedure, and they're trying to make your lives easier with this stuff. So we find that using that kind of hybrid, not necessarily hybrid, but the mix of flowable and packable composite is really good to actually fill the trays with, so that way you get a good result. Press composite applicator all the way to the base of the well. So when you have your tray, when you're trying to fill the composite up, right, there's wells. Good practice is to take the applicator and press it on the wall of the attachment well, and then you basically squeeze to fill it, and then you slowly pull it out. What that does is that ensures that there's no air bubbles. And if you have to choose between underfilling or overfilling, I always recommend to slightly overfill, because the worst case is you'll get some flash, but you can always remove that. If you underfill it, then you're just at risk for that attachment popping off. And something that's super important in terms of the workflow, when you are etching, right, that is the first stage of your control. So only etch where you intend to bond. So essentially look at where the attachment is actually going to be placed and only etch on that spot. And then once you do that, again, only bond in that spot. And then the reason why is if you etch and bond all over the place and then you put the composite on, when you have that flash, it's going to get stuck to the tooth all over the place. And now you got to bring the burr out and you got to trim and do all that stuff. Where if you and your assistant just etch and bond where the attachment's supposed to go, and then you bond that attachment, if there's any flash, your assistant can flick it off with the scaler. It'll come off super easily. And I'm speaking from experience. It takes so long, and you think IPR is nerve-wracking. Taking off a wall of composite on a fully bonded buccal surface of the tooth is even worse. That assistant that I told you about, where she was like basically bonding the entire attachment on the buccal surface, she had done that. Like, she etched and bonded the entire buccal surface of the tooth. So I had to sit there and like remove all of that composite off, that composite veneer basically on every tooth. So yeah. But you do the etch and bond trick, you will see a huge difference.
So if you're a dentist who wants to get confidence with aligners and you just don't know where to start, be sure to check out one of my free trainings. But if you want something that's more structured with some implementation resources and support, then you might be a good fit for our course, Aligner Blueprint. It has helped hundreds of dentists generate over $9 million in aligners alone, and they've all been able to do cases with confidence. The links for all those are in the description below, so you can go ahead and check that out, or go to our website, clearalineradvisor.co, and that's where you'll find all this information.
So this is Adam's slide. He sent it to me, and I'm just going to show you guys here. Let's see. So what we're doing is we're cutting the tray. So this is the initial tray, and we just cut it right at the midline. And so what that does is now you've got 4 individual trays. And what that does is that allows for you to work in quadrants. And so when you're working in quadrants, it doesn't matter what's going on the opposite side of the mouth. You can control the space and worry about your isolation in that side of the mouth, and it makes it a lot easier. Also, make sure you are keeping that first attachment applicator, that template rather, because if an attachment ever falls off in the future, you will have that to come back to. Okay, so this is, this is just a video on like the attachment process here.
You're doing clear aligners and an attachment fell off. I'm gonna go over in this video how you can reattach it. First, place your etch. Control it only where you want your attachment to go. Remove the etch, rinse and air dry. Place your bond only where you want your attachment to stick. Blow some air on that. Light cure that. Add the composite into the tray. You want to make it flush with the edge or slightly overfilled. If you underfill it, this is how you're going to get air bubbles. Seat the tray. To make sure that the tray is fully seated, you want to put something in the mouth like a cotton roll so that the patient can bite down into it and fully seat the tray. This is going to ensure that the composite gets all over the tooth and you get a nice, good bond. You go ahead, cure that, close your eyes. Now you shine a UV light onto the tooth and you can see where all the composite is. This is going to help you see where the flash. Now you go ahead and remove the flash with something like a football burr or a carbide finishing burr. Get all that flash out of there so that way your tray seats and you're all done.
So that's the process. Yes, that is a throwback Instagram reel that I made back in the day, but useful information nonetheless. So this was your question, right? So what to do if an attachment falls off? So first of all, yes, keep the initial template because you can always use that in the future. Now, if it's a standard attachment, and this applies to literally every brand outside of Invisalign, you can just use the aligner that they're on and just rebond that. You don't even need the original. But I always say to just keep it because it's nice to have. If you've got the optimized attachment, so the Invisalign users who are here, what you can do is the difference between a standard and optimized attachment. A standard attachment is going to be either, it's a rectangle. It's either horizontal rectangle or vertical rectangle. A optimized attachment is going to be like a moon, curvy, kind of weird shape. Those attachments, you cannot use the aligner that they're on because that is, it's called like an active attachment. So basically the way they design the trays and those attachments, it's all kind of moving. So if you were to use the current aligner they're on, the degree of accuracy just wouldn't be there because that position of the attachment on the tooth is actually moving in that tray. I know it sounds complicated and weird, but simply put, all you need to do is keep the original, and then what you do is you just cut out that individual tooth to apply it for an optimized attachment because that original template will still fit over that tooth and it's just going to fit in the new position. And so all you need to get right is the location of the attachment on that tooth, irregardless of the adjacent teeth, okay? But like I said, you can use the actual tray or you can use the attachment template for all other attachments that may or may not fall off, okay? And so this is, I know some people like to kind of just know what setups look like. I don't know if people have like a one burr block system or multi-burr block system, but pretty much for aligners, this is what you need, right? You've got the carbide finishing burr, the football burr, and then the mosquito diamond. And then we've got some slow speed polishes in the back. And so that mosquito is what you're going to be using whenever you're doing IPR, which we're going to get into here. And so this is flash removal. Another visual showing you guys here.
All right, so what in the world is going on here? So we have some teeth and we also have a patient in Invisalign. And what you're seeing is the blocker blacklight technique in action. So what this technique does is basically when you shine a blacklight on teeth and there's composite on them, the composite lights up, okay? That's what you see here. The reason why this is helpful is because if you are trying to identify flash or any excess, you can see the excess with this black light, and then you take your burr, remove the excess. The reason why flash and excess is so bad is because if you have flash, your trays will not seat correctly. If your trays don't seat correctly, your teeth will not track and your treatment will not work. So remove flash always, and you will get the best results. Like, follow, save, and share for more tips.
Cool. Munchies. So I told you guys before I was going to talk about them, so here we go. So Munchies are basically this rubber device that your patients can bite into, and this helps seat the tray, and it also helps to place or apply force to the aligners. And so there's other brands out there like Chewies and stuff. I personally have found success with Munchies as well as Pull Tool. So Pull Tool is a device that helps remove aligners for patients, and they also have a rubber attachment on it that pretty much does the same thing that Munchies does. The reason why Chewies are not always the best is because Chewies are kind of like a cotton roll. They're like a rubber cotton roll. And when the patients bite into it, the maximum force that can be applied is just not as good as a Munchie or the rubber from a Pull Tool, because the cotton roll when it's bit into, or the Chewy when it's bit into, will kind of like flex up. So a lot of that force is wasted and it doesn't go onto the aligner. It actually kind of like goes out on the sides. And so the rule and the protocol is basically you tell your patients that you have to use a Munchie every time that they are seating the tray. So anytime they're putting the tray in, they need to just bite around, and then they need to use it for 20 minutes throughout the day. So whether that's 2 10-minute sessions, 4 5-minute sessions, they just need to get 20 minutes in. And they cannot overdo it. So if they really like it, they want to keep using it, you just tell them they can do it as much as they want. And then this is, I believe, me using the Munchie. And you just kind of bite all the way around like that. Some people say it feels good because it like kind of almost like massages the teeth while the teeth are kind of moving. But the biggest benefit, like I said before, is it stimulates that osteoclastic, osteoblastic activity. So it kind of is doing like micro trauma to the teeth or to the bone surrounding the teeth. And that's what helps allow for the teeth to be able to move, right? Because inflammation is good when we're moving teeth in the areas.
Speaking of resources, we have a bunch of free ones at our website, clearalineradvisor.co. It's everything that you need to get started with doing aligners. And so for those of you who are looking for the resources, mentorship, and support with aligners, I also have a course. It's called Aligner Blueprint. Details for it are in the description below. And I would love to support you if you want a very structured, simple way to get started with aligners.